So, you want to take the plunge
Ready to take the plunge?
and start a new hobby or even a career in woodworking, but you're overwhelmed at the amount of information out there, or just don't know where to start.
What?
That's why I'm making this video. Today, I'll walk you through essential tools, woodworking terms, and core concepts you actually need to know to get started. By the end, you'll have enough knowledge and confidence to stop planning and start building your first project. Let's dive in. When I look at beginner woodworking videos, they almost always start by defining woodworking or explaining the difference between woodworking and carpentry.
What's the difference between a woodworker and a carpenter?
But honestly, who gives a shit? How is that going to help you learn woodworking? What does help you learn is knowing the terms and concepts you're going to hear and need to be familiar with. The first is the all-important, never forget, have to master concept of woodworking. Wood has grain. The grain shows the orientation of the wood fibers or cells. The best way to visualize this concept is to think about a bundle of straws. The straws represent the wood fibers which run parallel to the long axis of a tree. This is the most important concept in the entire video because it's a foundational concept that most of woodworking is based off of. Now that you understand wood grain, the parts of a board and the types of cuts you can make in woodworking will make more sense to you. There are three main parts of a board: the edge, the face, and the ends. The edge is the narrower surface running the length of the board. The face is the wider surface running the length of the board. And the ends are the surfaces at either end of the board. In most situations, the grain of the wood will run parallel to the long axis of the board. So the grain will be running either parallel to the edge or to the face. The orientation of this grain to either the face or the edge matters because it affects the stability of the wood and how much the wood will move over time. Let's talk about the types of cuts that you can make. These include a rip cut, a cross cut, a miter cut, and a bevel cut. A rip cut is a cut that's going to be made parallel to the direction of the grain in a board. So this is going to be a long lengthwise cut through the face of the board. A cross cut's the opposite. This cut runs perpendicular to the direction of grain in your board, so it's going to run across the face. A mitered cut is an angled cut that's made across the face or width of a board. They're most commonly made at 45 degrees for projects like picture frames. A bevel cut is an angled cut that's made through the thickness or ends of your board. You'll most often see these made at 45-degree angles as well, and we'll see them used in projects like making a box where you're going to join the boards on their edge instead of their face. When you step foot in a woodworking shop, you're most likely going to see a number of different types of saws. And while most can make several types of cuts, each saw specializes in making a specific type of cut. We'll get more into that in a bit. Okay, what do you want your style to be? It's important you think about this up front because it will dictate what type of tools you want to grab when you're first starting. There's going to be three main types of woodworkers. The hand tool purists, who would rather eat a bowl of rabbit turds than use power tools.
Yum.
The contemporary woodworker, who doesn't see the point of using a slower hand tool when you can use a machine to do the job faster. And then there's the majority of woodworkers who are in the hybrid category, myself included. This group recognizes that in a modern shop you need hand tools and power tools because each performs a particular function best. My recommendation to you is that you join the hybrid crowd, but think about it on your own before you grab your first tool. And think about this. This channel was created to help beginners learn woodworking and to share project builds that hopefully inspire you to try some new projects. Your support is much appreciated and the only thing keeping this channel going. So if you're finding value in this and enjoy the content, please like, share, and comment on the video, and consider subscribing to the channel. It goes a long way, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you. All right, tools to get you started. I'm going to operate under the assumption that you're going to fall into the masses and want to learn the hybrid style of woodworking. It's going to benefit you to learn about hand tools and power tools in the long run, and you'll have to have a little knowledge of each to make the best decision about your style anyway. So what tools do you actually need to get started? You need a tool to make rip cuts, and you need a tool to make cross cuts, and that's all for cutting tools. Don't overthink it. You don't need to make crazy complex cuts right off the bat. To do this, my recommendation is that you get a quality miter saw and a job site table saw. A miter saw is going to run you about $300 to $400, and the same goes for a table saw. Grab yourself a decent miter saw from one of the major tool brands. DeWalt, Bosch, Makita, Milwaukee, Ryobi, they all make good entry-level saws, and they're going to be better than a $100 hunk of junk that you're going to find at Ocean State Job Lot or Harbor Freight Tools.
I don't like you.
The miter saw is going to be your go-to for making crosscuts out the gate. And as an added bonus, you can make miter and bevel cuts with the miter saw as well. For rip cuts, grab a job site table saw. This is an important distinction from a cabinet saw. A cabinet saw is what you see in professional woodworking shops, and they're thousands of dollars. If you start woodworking and you find out you love it, which you will, then this would be the type of saw to build up to eventually. But you don't need one right away. A job site table saw has what you need to get started. A decent rip saw blade with a good sturdy fence. Side note, you can make miter and bevel cuts with a table saw as well. Again, the major tool brands all make decent job site table saws. You'll have to do a little research to find out what works best for you. Some people will recommend getting a circular saw with a rip guide instead of a table saw initially. This is in an effort to keep costs down a little bit. But I don't agree with this approach. The reason being, while a circular saw with a rip guide will let you make rip cuts, and they're in fact cheaper if you make your own rip guide, this saw combo is meant to be used with sheet goods like plywood or MDF. Try using one to make a rip cut in a board, and you'll see what I'm talking about. The job site table saw, on the other hand, is your go-to for ripping boards. It's not going to be ideal for sheet goods, but it's my opinion that you're going to be working with boards more often at the start than sheet goods anyway. So grab yourself a job site table saw and then add a circular saw with rip guide later on down the line. It's also not impossible to work with sheet goods on a job site table saw. They sell 2x4 foot sheets at most big home improvement stores, and you can cut these just fine. You just wouldn't want to cut down a full 4 foot by 8 foot sheet of plywood on the job site table saw. So that covers your big expensive power tools. For hand tools, my recommendation is that you grab yourself a cheap set of chisels and a cheap hand plane. You're going to spend a lot of time in your woodworking career learning how to master these tools. From sharpening, to how to set them up properly, to maintaining them. For now, grab them and just familiarize yourself with each and what their primary purpose is. For the hand plane, it's flattening and smoothing boards, and for the chisels, it's cutting, carving, and shaping wood. The last thing you're going to need is a method to put your projects together. This is joinery, and it's a huge topic in woodworking. You're going to learn many different types of joints as you progress. The best, cheapest, and easiest way to learn by far is pocket holes. You can grab a mini pocket hole jig for about 20 bucks, and this will let you create recessed pockets so you can join your projects and keep your hardware hidden. When I first started woodworking, I used only pocket holes on my projects. In fact, they work so well, I still use them from time to time when I don't need a fancy joint or I just want some quick joinery to get the job done. If you don't already have one, you're going to need a power drill or screwdriver to be able to drive the screws in as well. Core concepts. Wood is wet. Wood is a hygroscopic material, which is a fancy way of saying that wood is regularly absorbing and retaining moisture from the environment. In fact, wood not only absorbs moisture, it also gives off moisture. Depending on the environment a board is in, it will continually either absorb moisture or give it off until it reaches something called an equilibrium content. This is the point where the moisture in the board is the same percentage as the surrounding environment. So if you bring a board that has an internal moisture content of 8% into an extremely humid environment, it will absorb moisture from the air in an effort to equalize itself. If your board has a 30% moisture content and is in an extremely dry environment, think New England in the winter, it will give off moisture. This is what causes wood movement, and it's a reason why the project that is put together perfectly on day one may not be so perfect 6 months from now. So what does this mean for the woodworker? You need to be aware that wood has a percentage range at which, under normal environmental conditions, it will move the least. This is generally between 6 and 8%. So it's a good idea to grab a moisture meter and check the moisture content of new wood you buy before you start using it in projects. If the moisture content is above 10%, think about letting it acclimate in your shop for a few weeks before using it. Wood moves across wood fibers far more than the length of the fibers. Given what we already know about boards and the grain orientation, this means that a board will move much more across its face than down the length of its face. Think back to our bundle of straws example. The moisture will be taken up by the wood fibers and stored in the straws, making them fatter versus longer. In woodworking, you need to account for this movement when building a project. Safety. This is my specialty because by day, I'm a physician assistant. When working in the shop, you want to keep yourself safe. That means having the right personal protective equipment. You're going to need a good set of eye protection, and you're going to want to think about dust. Dust is produced a ton in woodworking, and it can damage your lungs over time. The way woodworkers combat this in the shop is through dust collection at their major tools, a proper ventilation mask that is OSHA rated, and possibly an air filtration unit. OSHA is a national agency that regulates work safety equipment, among other things. When grabbing a ventilator mask, look for the OSHA certified label. When deciding whether or not to pick up an air filtration unit for your shop, it's going to depend on your work environment. My first shop was in the basement of our old home and it had terrible ventilation. There was only one small window in the shop. So this type of setup would benefit hugely from an air filtration unit. Now that my shop is in a 2-car garage, when it's nice out I can open up the garage doors and it gets much better ventilation. So having an air filtration system is much less of a concern for me. Dust collection at your major tools is a whole topic in and of itself. I made a whole video dedicated to this topic and I highly encourage you to check it out. Mistakes.
Oops.
This is a big one. Mistakes are going to happen over your time as a woodworker, and it's probably going to happen pretty often. No one is immune to it, whether you've been woodworking for 20 days or 20 years. I know some people that actually define how good of a woodworker you are by how well you respond to problems that come up in the shop. It happens that often. Don't let mistakes define you as a woodworker, and don't compare your work to others. It's a quick way of finding negatives to focus on and then getting in a bad headspace. Enjoy the process, embrace your mistakes, and learn from them. And know that everybody goes through the same issues when starting a new craft. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you're looking for more information on woodworking, please check out the Basic Woodworking Skills playlist that I have on my channel for more high quality and helpful content about learning how to woodwork. Thanks all.